I stood on the edge of the bridge, toes curling over cold metal, and wondered if anyone would even notice I was gone. 5 lovers. 5 times I'd believed the lie that someone could want me for more than what I could give them. 5 times I'd been wrong. The fifth one took everything. Not just my money, though he drained my accounts with a smile that used to make my heart race. Not just my apartment, though I'd signed the lease over to him because he said we'd build a life together. He took my belief that I was worth loving, that being Omega meant something other than Target painted across my chest. Just need to borrow some cash, baby. I'll pay you back. He never did. Sign here. It's just to make things easier for us. It made things easier for him to disappear. I found out 2 weeks ago he'd done this before. 3 other Omegas in the past 2 years. Same script, same promises, same devastation left behind. I wasn't special. I was just stupid enough to fall for it. The water below looked black and endless. Quiet. Finally, quiet. I closed my eyes and leaned forward. Strong arms locked around my waist and hauled me backward, so fast my breath punched out of my lungs. I hit a solid chest and a scent crashed over me. Pine and smoke and something that made my hindbrain scream alpha. No. The voice was deep, commanding, terrified. You don't get to do this. I thrashed, but whoever held me was stronger. Let me go. Never. Another presence materialized in front of me, blocking my view of the water. Taller than the first, broader, with eyes like winter storms. He didn't speak. Just stood there like a wall between me and the only peace I'd wanted in months. Then a third alpha dropped to his knees in the rain in front of me, hands raised like he was approaching something wild and wounded. Maybe he was. Please. His voice cracked on the word. Please don't. Just wait. 1 hour. Give us 1 hour. I stared at him through the rain streaming down my face, or maybe those were tears, I couldn't tell anymore. He had kind eyes, the type that made you believe in things that didn't exist. Why? My voice sounded hollow, even to my own ears. You don't even know me. We don't have to. The one holding me spoke again, gentler this time. 1 hour, that's all we're asking. I should have said no, should have fought harder, but I was so tired of fighting. And these 3 strangers smelled like everything I'd been told alphas should be, but never were. Safe, steady, real. 1 hour, I whispered. They took me to a diner that glowed against the darkness like a beacon I didn't deserve. The kind of place that stayed open all night for people who had nowhere else to go. I fit right in. The alpha who'd grabbed me, Taemin, he said his name was, ordered food I didn't touch. The silent one, Seojun, sat beside me close enough that I could feel his heartbeat. The one with kind eyes, Minho, talked about nothing. The rain, the city, how neon signs reflect in puddles like broken promises. I sat there dripping rainwater and shame and tried to understand why 3 beautiful alphas would waste their time on someone already dead inside. Because they were beautiful. All 3 of them. Sharp features softened by concern I didn't trust. Sense that made my Omega instincts whimper with want, even though I'd buried those instincts under suppressant and self-hatred months ago. That's when the idea came. Terrible and selfish and perfect. What if I let myself have this? Just once. Just one night. What if I let myself feel something good before I went back to that bridge and finished what they'd interrupted? One night where I pretend I'm someone worth wanting. One night where touch doesn't come with a price tag I can't afford. And then I'd disappear. They'd forget about me eventually. Everyone always did. I looked up at Minho, who was still watching me with those devastating eyes, and heard myself say, I don't want to talk about why I was there. Okay, he said softly. But can I ask you something? All 3 of them went still, waiting, my heart hammered against my ribs. This was insane, reckless, the kind of decision you only make when you've got nothing left to lose. Would you spend the night with me? The words tasted like desperation and lies. All 3 of you. The silence stretched so long I thought I'd miscalculated. Then Taemin's hand covered mine on the table, warm and careful. Why? He asked. I could have lied, should have lied, but something about the way they looked at me, like I was fragile but not broken, hurt but not beyond reach, made the truth spill out. Because I'm not okay, my voice cracked. And I just want to feel something that isn't this, just for a few hours. Seojun's jaw tightened. Minho's eyes went soft with understanding that cut too deep. Taemin's thumb traced circles on my knuckles like he was trying to memorize the shape of my bones. Okay, Taemin said finally. But not because you're broken, because you deserve softness, even if you don't believe it yet. I almost laughed. They had no idea what they were agreeing to. No idea that I was counting down the hours until I could go back to that bridge and finish the fall they'd interrupted. But I nodded and let them lead me out into the rain. One night, that's all I needed. One perfect night with 3 strangers who smelled like home. Then I'd let go. Their home smelled like cedar and something I couldn't name. Something that made my chest ache with longing I thought I'd buried. Taemin unlocked the door while Seojun's hand stayed steady on my lower back, guiding me inside. Minho disappeared into what I assumed was the kitchen, returning with a towel that he pressed into my shaking hands. You're freezing, he said quietly. I was. I hadn't noticed until now how the rain had soaked through to my bones, how my teeth wanted to chatter, but I'd clenched my jaw too tight for too long. Seojun moved closer, and I caught his scent properly for the first time without rain washing it away. Dark coffee and winter mornings. It wrapped around me like gravity, pulling me toward something I shouldn't want. Showers down the hall, Taemin said, his voice lower than it had been at the diner. Unless you want... I want this, I interrupted, because if I stopped to think, I'd lose my nerve. I want you, all of you. That's why I'm here. The air shifted, thickened. Minho's breath caught audibly. Taemin's eyes darkened to something hungry and careful at the same time. Seojun's hand on my back pressed just slightly harder, a question without words. I turned to face them fully. 3 alphas looking at me like I was something precious instead of something broken. It hurt more than the scammer's lies ever had. Just tonight, I whispered, the truth and the lie tangled together. Can you give me tonight? We can give you more than that, Taemin said, but I couldn't think about more. More meant tomorrow. Tomorrow meant going back to that bridge. Tonight was all I had left. I reached for Minho first because his eyes were the kindest. His hand was warm when it closed around mine, and when he pulled me closer, his scent, rain-soaked earth, and something sweet I couldn't place, made my suppressants feel like they were cracking. They'd been holding, for months, thick chemical barriers between me and the world, between me and the part of myself that trusted and bonded and loved too easily. But standing here, surrounded by 3 alphas whose scent called to something primal in my chest, I felt the first fracture. Minho's lips touched mine gently, like he was afraid I'd shatter. Maybe I would. Maybe I already had, and this was just the aftermath pretending to be whole. Taemin moved behind me, hands settling on my hips with careful pressure. Seojun's presence radiated heat to my left, close enough that I could feel him without touching. Tell us if it's too much. Minho breathed against my mouth. Everything was too much, their scents mixing in the air, the way Taemin's fingers traced slow circles through my wet shirt. How Seojun finally touched my face, tilting my chin so he could look at me properly. You're shaking, he said. I know. Afraid? No. Yes, not of them, of how much I wanted this, of how cruel the universe was to give me this the night before I planned to leave it. My suppressants cracked wider. I felt it like ice breaking, like something fundamental shifting in my chemistry. And then my scent unfurled into the space between us, honey and smoke and something desperate I'd tried so hard to hide. All 3 of them froze. Taemin's grip on my hips tightened. Minho's pupils dilated so fast I watched it happen. Seojun made a sound low in his throat that was barely human. That's not possible, Taemin whispered, but I felt it too, the pull intensifying, magnifying, becoming something that defied every biology lesson I'd ever learned. This wasn't just attraction. This was recognition. This was my hindbrain screaming mate so loudly I couldn't think past it, for all 3 of them. What's happening? My voice came out broken. Bond scent, Minho said, wonder bleeding through every syllable. We're... He couldn't finish. None of them could, because what we were feeling wasn't supposed to exist. An omega bonding with 3 alphas. Triplet alphas. The odds were astronomical. Impossible. Seojun moved first, crowding into my space with an intensity that should have scared me, but didn't. His forehead pressed against mine, breath coming hard and fast. Tell me you feel this, he demanded, Tell me I'm not losing my mind. I feel it. The words barely made it past my lips. Then they were everywhere. Taemin's mouth on my neck, breathing in my scent like he was drowning and I was air. Minho's hands tangling in my hair, gentle even as everything else spiraled into desperation. Seojun's lips claiming mine with a hunger that matched the ache building in my chest. They guided me somewhere soft, a bed, their bed, scent soaked into every fiber. And when they touched me, really touched me, it wasn't rough or careless or transactional like I'd learned to expect. It was reverent. Taemin's hands mapped my body like he was memorizing scripture. Seojun's strength turned careful, protective. His weight pressing me into safety instead of submission. Minho whispered things against my skin that sounded like promises I couldn't let myself believe. My scent bloomed stronger, mixing with theirs until I couldn't tell where I ended and they began. Our heartbeats found the same rhythm, our breathing synchronized. Every touch felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. This was what I'd been searching for through 5 failed lovers. This connection, this certainty, this overwhelming sense of belonging, and I was throwing it away tomorrow. The thought should have made me stop, should have made me pull away and tell them the truth. But I was selfish and broken and desperate for one perfect memory before the end. So I let them worship me, let them murmur words I'd never hear again. Let myself pretend, just for tonight, that I deserved this. Morning came too fast. I woke tangled between warm bodies, their scents wrapped around me like a promise. Taemin's arm draped across my waist, Minho's face buried against my shoulder, Seojun's hand laced with mine. The bond hummed between us, new and fragile and absolutely real. I should leave now, slip out before they wake, go back to the bridge and finish what they interrupted. But Minho's arm tightened in his sleep, pulling me closer, and something in my chest cracked wider than my suppressants ever had. Just one more day, I bargained with myself. I'll give myself one more day with them, then I'll disappear. I tried to leave on the 3rd day. My hand was on the doorknob when Taemin's voice cut through the quiet apartment. Where are you going? I didn't turn around. Couldn't. If I looked at him, I'd lose whatever fragile resolve I'd scraped together during another sleepless night wrapped in their scents. Home, I lied. You don't have a home. His footsteps approached, steady and inevitable. Your landlord called yesterday, said you're 3 months behind on rent. Eviction notice already filed. My chest tightened. Of course he knew. The scammer had made sure I'd lose everything. Then I'll figure something out. You'll stay here. It wasn't a question. Taemin didn't ask questions when he'd already decided the answer. I finally turned to face him. He stood there in the morning light streaming through their windows, looking every bit the alpha who was used to being obeyed, but his eyes held something softer, something that looked dangerously close to care. I can't stay here, I said. Why not? Because I'm still planning to die. Because every moment I spend with you 3 makes it harder to go through with it. Because I'm terrified I might actually want to live, and that's more frightening than the bridge ever was. Because this isn't real, I whispered instead. Taemin closed the distance between us in 2 strides. His hand cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone with devastating gentleness. Your scent is still tangled with ours. The bond is forming whether you accept it or not. That's real, Jiwon. Hearing my name in his mouth made something crack in my chest. I told them that first night, whispered it between kisses that tasted like goodbye. Bonds break, I said, thinking of the scammer's promises that shattered like glass. Not this one. Taemin's certainty was absolute. Not while we're still breathing. Seojun appeared in the hallway, silent as always, but his presence filled the space. Minho emerged from the kitchen holding a plate of food I wouldn't eat. 3 alphas surrounding me. Not trapping, protecting. That's what they thought they were doing. Just for a while, Minho offered quietly, until you find a place. We all knew that was a lie too, but I nodded because I was tired. And their apartment smelled like safety, and I could give myself a few more days before I went back to that bridge. So just a few more days. Taemin showed love through action. I didn't ask him to fix the broken screen on my phone, but he did. Didn't ask him to pay off my eviction debt, but the paperwork showed up cleared 3 days later. Every morning, I woke to breakfast already made. Eggs and rice and soup that reminded me of my mother's cooking before I disappointed her by presenting as Omega. You don't have to do this. I told him one morning, staring at the spread he'd laid out. I want to. He poured tea with steady hands. Let me take care of you. That's what the scammer had said too, right before he'd emptied my bank account. But Taman didn't ask for anything in return. Didn't present contracts to sign or loans to repay. Just kept showing up with groceries and repairs and quiet competence that made my throat tight. Seojun communicated in silence and proximity. He didn't hover. Didn't ask invasive questions, just existed in the same space, solid and unmovable. When I couldn't sleep, I'd find him on the couch at 3 in the morning, reading or just sitting in the dark. He never commented on my presence, just shifted to make room. One night, I found him standing outside the bathroom door after I'd spent 20 minutes staring at the pills I'd been stockpiling, the emergency exit I'd been building in case the bridge didn't work out. You okay? He asked. Fine. He didn't believe me. I could see it in the tension of his shoulders, but he didn't push, just leaned against the wall across from me and waited until I walked back to bed. The next morning, the pills were gone. He never mentioned it. Neither did I. Minho reached me through questions that felt like excavations. What's your favorite color? He asked one afternoon while we sat on their balcony. Why does it matter? Because I want to know you. Simple. Devastating. I told him blue. The color of the sky right before dawn when the world feels full of possibility instead of endings. When did you last laugh? Another day, another gentle probe. I couldn't remember. Months, maybe. The scammer used to make me laugh before I realized every joke was at my expense. What do you dream about? Nothing good. Falling. Drowning. The scammer's face when he told me he'd never loved me, that I was just another easy mark. But Minho's questions kept coming, persistent and careful, like he was trying to excavate the person I used to be from beneath the ruins. The memories came in fragments I couldn't control. The scammer's smile when I'd signed over my lease. This makes things so much easier for us, baby. His laugh when I'd asked about the money. You're so naive. That's what I love about Omegas. The moment I'd found the emails, 3 other Omegas before me. Same lines, same lies, same devastation. You're not special. You're just stupid enough to fall for it. Those words circled in my head during the quiet moments between Taemin's cooking and Seojun's watchfulness and Minho's questions, reminding me what I was, what I'd always be. A target, a victim, someone too broken to deserve the second chance these alphas kept offering. But then Taemin would press a warm mug into my hands without asking if I wanted it. Seojun would sit beside me in comfortable silence that didn't demand explanations. Minho would tell me about his day like my presence mattered, like hearing about pack politics and grocery runs was something I deserved to be part of. And slowly, terrifyingly, I started wanting mornings, started planning past tomorrow, started thinking about what it would feel like to actually stay. 2 weeks passed, then 3. The bridge waited in the back of my mind, but I stopped calculating the best time to go. Stopped checking the weather to see if rain would make it easier. One morning I woke up and realized I'd slept through the whole night without nightmares. Taemin's arm was around my waist, Seojun's breath was warm against my shoulder, and Minho's hand was tangled with mine. The bond hummed between us stronger every day. I don't want to die. The thought hit me like ice water, sharp and terrible and true. I don't want to die anymore, and that scared me more than anything else ever had. The eviction notice arrived on a Tuesday. I stared at the paper in my hands, the words blurring together. Credit destroyed, references ruined. No landlord in the city would rent to me now. The scammer had made sure of that, burning every bridge I might use to rebuild. Let me see. Taemin took the notice from my shaking fingers, scanned it once, then tore it in half. You're not going anywhere. You can't just... You live here now. He said it like he was stating a fact, not making an offer. Permanently, stop fighting it. Seojun appeared with boxes I didn't ask for. Minho was already clearing space in their closet, moving his clothes to make room for the nothing I owned. I don't have anything to move, I said quietly. He took it all. Minho's hand stilled on a hanger. When he looked at me, something fierce burned in his gentle eyes. Then we'll get you new things. Better things. He crossed the room, taking my face in both hands. You're ours now, Jiwon. That means what's ours is yours. I wanted to argue. Wanted to remind them I was temporary, that getting attached was dangerous, that people like me didn't deserve this kind of devotion. But the words wouldn't come, because somewhere between Taemin's breakfast and Seojun's silent vigils and Minho's careful questions, I'd stopped believing I deserved to die. I just hadn't started believing I deserved to live yet. Living with them meant learning their rhythms. Taemin woke first, always. I'd hear him in the kitchen before dawn, the quiet sounds of someone who found peace in routine. Coffee brewing, vegetables chopping, the sizzle of eggs in a pan. Seojun ran every morning at 6, returning drenched in sweat and endorphins he'd never admit to chasing. He'd pass through the kitchen silently, grabbing water, and his hand would brush my shoulder for just a second. Checking, making sure I was real. Minho was the last to wake, stumbling out with messy hair and a sleepy smile that did dangerous things to my carefully guarded heart. We fell into patterns I didn't plan. Meals together, evenings on the couch where Seojun read, Taemin worked on his tablet, and Minho asked me about books I used to love before loving anything felt like a risk. Small intimacies accumulated like interest, Taemin's hand on my lower back when he passed, Seojun pulling me against his chest during movies I pretended to watch, Minho's head on my shoulder while he scrolled through his phone. The bond between us strengthened daily, weaving tighter until I could feel them even in separate rooms. Their emotions bled into mine. Taemin's steady calm, Seojun's careful control, Minho's quiet joy. I was healing, despite myself, despite every instinct that screamed it was temporary. The truth came out in pieces late at night when defenses were low. Taemin told me first, 3 weeks after the eviction notice. We were alone in the kitchen, him cooking dinner while I pretended to help. I lost someone once, he said suddenly, knife pausing mid-cut. My best friend from high school. His throat worked. He didn't tell anyone he was struggling, just smiled until the day he didn't. My chest compressed. Taemin. I found him. His knuckles went white on the knife handle. In his apartment. 3 days too late. He finally looked at me, eyes raw with old grief. So, when we caught your scent that night, on the bridge, when Minho said wait, and you almost didn't, I couldn't let it happen again. I won't. Understanding crashed over me, the monitoring, the constant presence, the way Taemin never quite relaxed unless all three of us were in his sight. He wasn't being controlling, he was being terrified. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be sorry, just stay. His hand found mine. Please just stay. Seojun's confession came during a thunderstorm. Lightning cracked outside and I flinched hard enough that he noticed from across the room. He moved to the couch, sitting close but not touching. You afraid of storms? No, just... I swallowed. Bad memories. He nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. My parents' bond broke when I was 12, he said into the darkness between lightning flashes. Violently, watching it happen, watching my father almost die from the severing, it taught me that loving someone that deeply is dangerous. Is that why you... I gestured vaguely between us. Why I fight it? He finally looked at me. Yeah, every instinct I have says bonding with you will destroy me when it ends. But here's the thing, Jiwon. His hand covered mine. I'm starting to think not bonding with you will destroy me faster. Thunder rolled overhead. This time I didn't flinch because Seojun's thumb was tracing circles on my wrist and somehow that made the storm smaller. Minho waited until I asked. We were on the balcony, watching the city lights blur into constellations. He was quieter than usual, and I learned his silences had different textures. What are you thinking about? I asked. Therapy, he said simply. I have an appointment tomorrow. Had them every week for 3 years. I turned to face him. For what? Depression. Suicidal ideation. He said it matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. I tried once. Pills. My brothers found me in time. My breath stopped. Minho. I'm okay now. Mostly. He smiled. Sad and real. But I understand what it's like to stand on that edge. To feel like the world would be better without you in it. His hand found my face. That's why I begged you to wait. Because I know how permanent that decision is. And I know how much you'd miss if you made it. Tears burned behind my eyes. What if I'm not strong enough? You already are. His forehead pressed against mine. You're still here. That's strength, Jiwan. Staying is the hardest thing you'll ever do. Something shifted that night. The four of us ended up tangled together on the couch, talking about nothing and everything. Taemin told a story about burning dinner so badly the smoke alarm brought the neighbors. Seojun admitted he secretly loved romance movies. Minho did an impression of their pack alpha that made me laugh. The sound startled out of me, rusty and unpracticed. All three of them froze, staring like I'd performed a miracle. Do that again, Minho breathed. Do what? Laugh, smile, anything. His eyes were bright. You have no idea how beautiful you look right now. And I realized I'd smiled, genuinely smiled. For the first time in months, maybe years, something that wasn't painted on for survival. The future I'd been running from suddenly felt less like a threat and more like a possibility. Maybe I could have this. Maybe I could stay. Maybe I deserved morning light and Taemin's cooking and Seojun's steady presence and Minho's endless questions. Maybe broken things could be loved anyway. I told them about Dahyun on a night when the bond felt strong enough to survive the truth. We were curled together on their oversized bed, the kind of closeness that had become normal, necessary. Taemin's fingers traced lazy patterns on my hip. Seojun's chest was warm against my back. Minho's head rested on my shoulder. His name was Daehyun, I started, a voice barely above a whisper. The fifth one. The one who... You don't have to, Minho said gently. I do. Because they deserve to know what kind of damaged goods they'd pulled off that bridge. He found me at a coffee shop, said my scent called to him. I thought... My throat closed. I thought it was fate. Taemin's hand stilled on my hip. He moved fast. Too fast, I realize now. Within a month, he needed money for his mother's medical bills. I gave it. Then his car broke down. His rent was late. His brother needed bail. The words came faster, sharper. I signed loan papers with his name on them, put his name on my lease, gave him access to my accounts because he said couples should trust each other. Ji-won. Seojun's voice was rough behind me. 6 months. That's how long it took him to drain everything. When I finally confronted him, he laughed. I could still hear it, cruel and casual. He said I was the fourth Omega that year, that we were easy marks because we're hardwired to trust, to bond, to give everything to someone we think is ours. Minho's breath hitched. Fourth? I found the emails after he left. 3 others before me, same script, same lies, same... I swallowed hard. He didn't choose me because he wanted me. He chose me because I was weak. Because being Omega made me easy to manipulate. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Taemin moved, rolling me to face him. His eyes blazed with something between fury and grief. You're not weak. You're not a mark. And he didn't destroy you. You're still here, still fighting. Am I? The question cracked in the middle. Because some days it still feels like he won. He didn't, Seojun said with absolute certainty. You're alive. That means you won. I should have felt safe after that confession. Lighter, maybe. But 2 days later, I found the cameras. Small. Professional. Pointed at the bridge where they'd found me. My hands shook as I held the evidence on Taemin's laptop. Camera feeds, location tracking on my phone, timestamps showing weeks of surveillance. They came home to find me standing in the living room, laptop open, betrayal burning through the fragile trust I'd been building. You've been watching me. My voice came out flat, dead. Taemin's face went carefully blank. Seojun's jaw tightened. Minho looked away, guilt written across every feature. We can explain. Taemin started. Explain what? That you've been tracking my every move? That you put cameras on the bridge? My laugh was bitter. I thought this was real. But you've just been monitoring your project, making sure your broken Omega doesn't escape? That's not fair, Seojun cut in, stepping forward. Fair? The word exploded out of me. You want to talk about fair? I told you about Daehyun, about being manipulated and controlled, and you've been doing the same thing. It's not the same, Minho said desperately. We weren't trying to control you. Then what were you trying to do? I demanded. Because from where I'm standing, this looks like three alphas who don't trust their omega to make his own choices. We were trying to keep you alive. Taemin's control finally cracked. You stood on that bridge ready to jump Jiwon. You think we could just forget that? Just trust that you wouldn't go back? So you spied on me instead? We protected you. His voice rose to match mine. Every single day I wake up terrified that you'll disappear, that I'll lose you the same way I lost Junho. So yes, I put cameras on that bridge. Yes, I tracked your phone because I will not find you too late again. The raw pain in his voice should have softened me, but I was too angry, too hurt, too much like Daehyun's victim all over again. You don't get to make that choice for me, I said coldly. My life is mine, even if I choose to end it. Seojun's face went pale. Minho made a sound like I'd struck him. Is that what you want? Seojun asked quietly. To go back to that bridge? The question hung between us, sharp and terrible. I don't know, I admitted, and watched something break in all three of them. But I need to know that if I stay, it's because I chose it, not because you're forcing me through surveillance and control. We weren't. Minho tried. You were. I cut him off. Maybe your intentions were good. Maybe you were scared. But Daehyun was scared too. Scared I'd leave before he got everything he wanted. Fear doesn't justify control. The comparison landed like a physical blow. Taemin flinched. Seojun's hands clenched into fists. Minho's eyes filled with tears he wouldn't let fall. We're nothing like him, Taemin said, voice low and dangerous. Then, prove it. I met his gaze steadily. Remove the cameras. Stop tracking my phone. Let me have autonomy, even if it terrifies you. And if you go back to that bridge, Seojun demanded, then that's my choice to make. The words fell into silence so complete I could hear my own heartbeat, could feel the bond between us straining, stretching thin but not breaking. Not yet. Finally, Taemin moved to his laptop. His fingers flew across the keyboard, and I watched the camera feeds go dark one by one. Done, he said roughly. No more cameras, no more tracking. He looked at me with eyes that held too much pain. But if you disappear, if you go back to that bridge and I lose you, I need you to know that will destroy me. Me too, Minho whispered. Seojun said nothing, just turned and walked out of the room. I stood there surrounded by the wreckage of trust we'd been building and wondered if honesty was worth this much pain. I'm not planning to go back, I said quietly, but I needed to know I could. That you'd let me choose. Taemin nodded once, sharp, final. You can choose, always. His voice cracked. Just please choose us. Trust came back slowly, like morning light through heavy curtains. The first week after our fight was careful, polite. We moved around each other with the caution of people learning to hold something fragile without breaking it again. But then Taemin made my favorite breakfast without being asked, and I didn't question whether he had ulterior motives. Seojun sat beside me during a thunderstorm, and I leaned into his warmth instead of pulling away. Minho asked what I wanted for dinner, and I actually answered instead of saying it didn't matter. Small steps, but steps forward nonetheless. The nesting started without me realizing it. I'd been rearranging pillows on their bed, gathering the softest blankets, moving things until the space felt right in a way I couldn't explain. When I looked up, all three of them were watching from the doorway with expressions I couldn't read. What? I asked, suddenly self-conscious. You're nesting, Minho said softly, wonder coloring his voice. I looked down at my hands, at the blanket I'd been smoothing. I didn't mean to. Don't stop. Taemin moved into the room, pulling his own shirt over his head and adding it to my collection. Here, this one has my scent strongest. Seojun followed, offering a hoodie he wore during his morning runs. Minho disappeared and returned with one of his soft sleep shirts, pressing it into my hands with a smile that made my chest ache. I buried my face in the fabric, breathing in their combined scents, pine and coffee and rain-soaked earth. Something in my hindbrain purred with satisfaction. Safe. Home. Mine. Is this okay? I asked, voice muffled by Minho's shirt. Jiwon. Taemin knelt beside me, turning my face toward his. You building a nest in our bed with our scents? That's more than okay. That's everything. The bond between us pulsed warm, and strengthening. Not complete yet, but growing, weaving us together in ways that felt inevitable and right. We talked about the future on a lazy Sunday afternoon. Minho had asked what seemed like an innocent question. If you could do anything, what would it be? I almost gave a throwaway answer, almost said something safe and non-committal, but these three had earned my honesty. I used to want to teach, I admitted. Little kids. Before Daehyun, I was studying early childhood education. I traced patterns on Seojun's palm where our hands were linked, but he convinced me to drop out. Said I should focus on us instead of wasting time on a degree I didn't need. You need it if it's what you want, Taemin said firmly. I can't afford to go back. The loans he took out in my name are paid off. Seojun's voice was matter of fact. Taemin handled it last week. I sat up so fast I nearly knocked Minho off the couch. You what? The debt wasn't yours. Taemin said simply. He forged your signature. I had our PAC lawyer prove it. You're clear. Tears burned behind my eyes. Why would you? Because you're ours. He said it like that explained everything. Maybe it did. And we take care of what's ours, so if you want to go back to school, you go back, we'll handle the rest. Fall semester starts in 2 months, Minho added, already pulling up university websites on his phone. You could still apply. They were planning around me, building a future that included me past next week, next month, like they believed I'd be here, like they believed I wanted to be here. I'd need to study, I said slowly, testing the words. It wouldn't be easy. We'll quiz you, Seojun offered. I'd be stressed, probably cranky during finals. We'll feed you and make sure you sleep. Taemin countered. I might fail. Then you'll try again. Minho's hand found mine. We're not going anywhere, Jiwon. Whether you succeed or fail or change your mind completely, you're stuck with us. The certainty in his voice made something settle in my chest, something that felt dangerously like hope. The intimate moments came easier now. Not sex, though the pull was always there, simmering beneath the surface, but softer things. More devastating in their gentleness. Taemin washing my hair in the shower, fingers massaging my scalp while he hummed something I didn't recognize. The concentration on his face, like the simple act of care, was sacred. Seojun pulling me into his lap during movies, his arms a fortress around me while his heartbeat steadied mine. The way he'd press his nose into my neck and just breathe, like my scent was the only thing keeping him grounded. Minho braiding my hair before bed, movements slow and soothing, his voice soft as he told me about his day, his dreams, his fears, the trust it took to be that vulnerable, making my throat tight. We were building something real, something that felt nothing like the manipulation Daehyun had sold me as love. This was choice, daily choice. To stay, to trust, to try. It happened on a Wednesday evening. We were tangled together on the couch, the kind of comfortable silence that only came after weeks of learning each other's rhythms. Rain pattered against the windows. Someone's show played on the television, unwatched. Minho's head was on my shoulder. Taemin's hand was warm on my ankle. Seojun's arm curved around my waist from behind. The bond hummed between us, stronger every day. Not complete, we hadn't sealed it formally, but undeniable. They were mine. I was theirs. The mathematics of it defied everything I'd been taught about pack dynamics and mating bonds. I'm glad I didn't jump, I said into the quiet. 3 bodies went still around me. What? Minho lifted his head. I turned to look at each of them. These 3 alphas who'd saved me in every way a person could be saved. That night, on the bridge, I'm glad you stopped me. The words came easier than I expected. I'm glad I'm here, with you. I'm glad I get to have this. Taemin's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Sojun's grip tightened around my waist. Minho made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. Say it again, Sojun demanded, voice rough. I'm glad I'm alive. And I meant it. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I meant it completely. I want to be here. I want this future we're planning. I want... Minho kissed me before I could finish, and it tasted like promise and relief and home. When we finally pulled apart, Taemin was smiling. Seojun's eyes had softened to something tender, and I felt whole in a way I didn't know was possible. But then, a chill ran down my spine. I pulled back from Minho's kiss, suddenly uneasy. My eyes drifted to the window, scanning the street below. Rain blurred the glass, turning streetlights into halos of gold against the darkness. What's wrong? Seojun's hand tightened on my waist. I don't know. I stared at the empty street, but the feeling wouldn't leave. Like ice water down my back. Like being watched. Probably nothing. But the bond pulsed strangely, not with the warmth of my alphas, but with something else. Something cold and familiar that made my stomach turn. Taemin moved to the window, peering out. I don't see anything. Just paranoid, I guess. I forced myself to relax back into their embrace, but the unease lingered beneath my skin. Minho pressed a kiss to my temple. You're safe here. We've got you. I wanted to believe him. I did believe him, so why did it suddenly feel like something was coming? Something I should have seen before it was too late. I saw Daehyun outside the grocery store on a Thursday afternoon. My heart stopped, then started again too fast, hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. He stood by a black car, phone in hand, looking exactly as I remembered. Sharp suit, practiced smile, eyes that had once made me believe in forever. I should have run, should have called Taemin or Seojun or Minho, should have done anything except what I did. I walked toward him. Ji-won. My name in his mouth sounded like coming home and falling apart at the same time. I was hoping I'd find you. What do you want? My voice came out steadier than I felt. To apologize. He stepped closer and I caught his scent, familiar in the worst way. I know I hurt you. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I need to make it right. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this was a trap, but something else stirred beneath my thoughts, something that whispered he sounds sincere. He deserves a chance to explain. There's nothing to explain, I said, but my feet wouldn't move away. Please, just 5 minutes. His hand reached out, stopping just short of touching me. I've changed as Ji-won. I went to therapy, faced what I did to you, to the others. Let me show you I'm different now. The bond with my alphas pulsed a warning. Danger. Threat. Run. But Daehyun's scent wrapped around me and the warning grew quieter. Distant. 5 minutes, I heard myself say. He bought me coffee at a cafe 3 blocks away. I sat across from him in a corner booth, watching steam rise from a cup I wouldn't drink. Everything felt slightly off. Like the world had tilted 2 degrees to the left and I was the only one who noticed. The alphas you're with, Daehyun said carefully. They're pack leaders, aren't they? Wealthy family. Lots of influence. How do you know about them? I keep tabs on people I care about. His smile was gentle, concerned. I worry about you, Ji-won. Always have. That should have sounded manipulative, should have triggered every alarm. Instead, it felt true. They're good to me, I said, but the words felt strange in my mouth. Are they? He leaned forward. Or are they just better at hiding their control? Think about it. They tracked you, monitored you, wouldn't let you leave. That's not love, Ji-won. That's possession. The bond pulsed again, fainter now. Something was wrong. Something about the way Daehyun's scent kept getting stronger, sweeter, more right. They stopped monitoring me, I said, but even I didn't sound convinced. Did they, or did they just get better at hiding it? His hand covered mine on the table. I know I hurt you, but at least I was honest about what I wanted. They're lying to you, making you think you're safe when really you're just their pet project. No. That wasn't true. Taemin and Seojun and Minho loved me. They'd proven it over and over, hadn't they? I need you to do something for me, Daehyun said softly, to prove they trust you, to prove you're not just their charity case. What? The word came out before I could stop it. Bring me their PAC documents, financial records. Show me they're treating you as an equal, not just keeping you dependent. Warning bells rang somewhere deep in my mind, but they were so far away. Muffled. Daehyun's scent was everywhere now, sinking into my skin, rewriting my instincts. That would be betraying them, I said weakly. No. His grip tightened on my hand. It would be protecting yourself. If they have nothing to hide, the documents won't matter. But if they're using you the way I think they are, you deserve to know. The logic twisted in my head until it almost made sense, until I found myself nodding. Okay, I whispered. I don't remember walking home. Don't remember entering their apartment or finding Taman's office or unlocking the safe I'd watched him open a dozen times. Everything moved like a dream, distant and inevitable. My hands gathered documents, financial records, packed territory maps, business contracts worth millions. The bond screamed, but the sound was so far away. I delivered everything to Daehyun in a parking garage downtown. He smiled when I handed over the files, and something about that smile finally broke through the fog. Cold, calculating, triumphant. Good boy, he said, and the words hit like ice water. The scent around me shattered. Reality crashed back in brutal clarity. What had I done? No, I grabbed for the documents, but he pulled them away. No, give them back. I didn't mean... Of course you meant to. His smile was poisoned now. You always were easy to manipulate, G1. Some things never change. You used pack magic on me. The realization made my knees weak. That's forbidden. Illegal. Prove it. He slid into his car. By the time your alphas figure out what happened, I'll have sold these contracts to their rivals. Thanks for the payday. He drove away to Arnie, leaving me standing in an empty parking garage with the weight of my betrayal crushing my chest. I ran home. The apartment was chaos. Taemin shouting into his phone about security breaches. Seojun's knuckles bloody from punching the wall. Minho sitting on the floor with his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. They looked up when I entered. The devastation in their eyes broke something fundamental in me. Jiwon? Taemin's voice cracked. Where were you? Someone broke into my office, took everything. The pack is compromised. He stopped, really looking at me. Why do you smell like him? I couldn't speak, couldn't explain, could only stand there drowning in what I'd done. It was you. Seojun's voice was dead. You gave him the documents. He used magic. I choked out. I didn't mean... You destroyed us. Minho's words were barely audible. We trusted you. We loved you. And you destroyed us. I wanted to explain, wanted to make them understand, but the bond between us was fracturing, splintering under the weight of my betrayal. So I ran. The bridge looked the same as it had that first night. Rain, darkness, black water below promising peace. I climbed over the railing, hands shaking so hard I almost fell before I meant to. I destroy everything I touch, I whispered to the void. This time, there would be no alphas to save me. This time, I deserved to fall. I heard them before I saw them. 3 sets of footsteps running through rain, desperate and uneven. I didn't turn around, didn't want to see their faces when they realized I was doing this again. Jiwon, don't! Minho's voice broke on my name. Please step back from the edge. Taemin sounded like he was barely holding himself together. We can fix this. Seojun's usually steady voice shook. Whatever happened, we can fix it. I laughed, and it came out jagged, broken. You can't fix me. No one can. Then let us try anyway. Minho was closer now, close enough that I could feel his warmth even through the rain. Please, just step back. I betrayed you. The words tore out of me. I gave him everything. Your pack documents, your financial records, your territory maps. He's probably selling them right now to your enemies, and it's my fault. We know, Taemin said quietly. You know? I finally turned to look at them. All 3 stood in the rain, drenched and desperate and still looking at me like I mattered. Then why are you here? Why aren't you... letting you die? Seojun finished. Because we're not giving up on you, even if you've given up on yourself. I destroyed everything. My hands shook on the railing. Your pack, your safety, your trust. Daehyun was right. I'm just an easy mark. Too stupid to see manipulation even when it's happening. He used pack magic on you, Minho said urgently. We found traces of it in the apartment. Scent manipulation, bonding interference. It's forbidden for a reason, Jiwon. It rewrites your instincts, makes you trust the wrong people. I should have been stronger. Tears mixed with rain on my face. Should have known better. Should have. Stop! Taemin moved closer, hands raised like he was approaching something wild. You were drugged, magically manipulated. That's not weakness. That's assault. The word hit me like a physical blow. Assault. Not failure, not stupidity. Assault. I still made the choice, I whispered. Still handed over those documents. Under magical coercion, Seojun countered, which means it wasn't really a choice at all. The damage is still done. I looked back at the water. Your pack is compromised because of me. You'd be better off if I just... Don't you dare finish that sentence. Minho's voice turned sharp, steel beneath the softness. You think your death would make this better? You think we could survive losing you? You barely know me. We know enough. Taemin was close enough now that I could see the fear in his eyes. The same fear from that first night when they'd pulled me back from this exact edge. We know you're worth saving. We know you're worth fighting for. We know losing you would break us in ways we'd never recover from. Then you're fools. The words came out bitter. I'm poison. Everything I touch turns to ash. No. Seojun's voice was absolute. He's poison. Daehyun is the one who destroys. You're just the person he targeted because you have something he doesn't. What? Stupidity? A heart. Seojun stepped closer, close enough to touch if I reached out. You have the capacity to love and trust and hope. He has nothing but greed, and he knew if he could twist those good things in you, he could use them as weapons. Something cracked in my chest, something that had been holding me together through sheer force of self-loathing. I don't know how to come back from this, I admitted. Don't know how to face you after what I did. You don't have to know. Minho's hand finally touched mine on the railing, warm despite the rain. You just have to stay. Let us figure out the rest together. The pack can be rebuilt, Taemin interrupted. Documents can be replaced. Territories can be defended. But you, his voice cracked. We can't replace you, Jiwon. There's no substitute for the person we love. Love? They'd never said it that directly before. The word hung between us, impossible and real. I don't deserve that, I whispered. Maybe not. Seojun's honesty was brutal and kind at once. But you have it anyway. Love doesn't wait for people to deserve it. It just exists. I stared at the three of them, soaked and desperate and refusing to give up on me even when I'd given them every reason to walk away. And something shifted inside me. Daehyun wanted me to die, wanted me to believe I was worthless and broken beyond repair, wanted me to finish what he'd started by destroying myself. Dying would be giving him exactly what he wanted. Dying is easy, I said slowly, the realization burning through me. Living is what takes courage. Minho's breath caught. What? Fighting back, fixing what he broke, facing what I did and making it right. I looked at each of them. That's harder than jumping. That's the real bravery. Yes. Taemin's voice was rough with emotion. Exactly. So help me. I stepped back from the railing, legs shaking so badly I nearly fell. Seojun caught me, arms locking around me like he'd never let go. Help me fight him. Help me end this. Anything, Minho promised. Whatever you need. I need to find him. The words came out steady despite the tears. I need to take back what he stole. Not just the documents, my power, my choice, everything he's taken from me and the others before me. Then we hunt him down. Taemin's eyes blazed with something fierce. Together. No. I pulled back enough to meet his gaze. Not together. Me. I need to be the one to face him, to show him I'm not his victim anymore. We're not letting you go alone, Seojun said immediately. I'm not asking you to let me go alone. I stood straighter, feeling something like strength returning to my spine. I'm asking you to stand with me, but this is my fight. My choice. Let me lead it. Understanding dawned across their faces. This wasn't about revenge, it was about reclaiming myself. Okay, Taemin said finally, you lead. We follow. Back at the apartment, Taemin pulled up tracking software I didn't know existed. Pack magic leaves a signature, he explained, fingers flying across the keyboard. Especially illegal manipulation spells. If Daehyun used it on you, there's a trail. Numbers and maps filled the screen. Coordinates appeared. Found him. Seojun's voice was grim. Downtown, warehouse district. I stared at the blinking dot that represented the man who tried to destroy me twice. Once with lies, once with magic. He wouldn't get a third chance. Let's go. I grabbed a jacket, hands no longer shaking. It's time to end this. Minho caught my arm, turning me to face him. Are you sure? I thought about the bridge, about the girl I'd been who wanted to die because living hurt too much, about the person I was becoming who chose to fight instead of flee. I'm sure. My voice didn't waver. He doesn't get to win, not this time. The three of them exchanged glances, then nodded as one. We were going to war, and this time, I was ready. The warehouse smelled like rust and broken promises. Daehyun stood in the center of the empty space, surrounded by boxes of stolen documents, phone pressed to his ear. He looked up when we entered, and his smile was everything I remembered. Charming, calculated, cruel. Jiwon. He ended the call, sliding the phone into his pocket. I didn't expect you to come back. Most Omegas don't have the spine. I'm not most Omegas. My voice was steady, strong. Nothing like the broken person he left on that bridge. His eyes flicked to the triplet standing behind me. Brought your handlers. I see. Can't do anything without their permission. They're here because I asked them to be. I stepped forward, leaving Taemin, Seojun, and Minho at the entrance. But this is between you and me, Daehyun laughed. Still think you matter? You're just another mark, Jiwon. Another stupid Omega who... His scent hit me mid-sentence. That same sickly sweet manipulation from the cafe, worming into my hindbrain, trying to rewrite my instincts. Trust him. He's safe. The alphas are the real threat. But this time, the magic slid off me like water off glass. The bond with my alphas pulsed strong and sure, a shield I hadn't known I was building. Their scents wrapped around me, pine and coffee and rain-soaked earth, drowning out Daehyun's poison. It's not working. I watched realization dawn on his face. I'm bonded now. Your magic can't touch me. Fear flickered across his features before anger replaced it. You think a half-formed bond protects you? You think those alphas actually care about a broken Omega who... I hit him before he could finish. My fist connected with his jaw, and pain exploded through my knuckles. He staggered back, shock replacing his smug expression. I'm not broken. I advanced on him. I'm surviving. There's a difference. He lunged at me, and we crashed into boxes of documents. Paper scattered everywhere. Evidence of his crimes, proof of how many lives he'd destroyed. You're nothing, he snarled, hands closing around my throat. Just another weak Omega who fell for pretty words. I remembered what Seojun taught me. Center of gravity, leverage. I twisted, using his own weight against him, and we hit the concrete floor hard. I was never weak. I gasped for air, fighting free of his grip. You just convinced me I was... We grappled across the warehouse floor. He was stronger, heavier, meaner, but I was fighting for something he'd never understand. I was fighting to live. His fist caught my cheek and blood filled my mouth. My vision blurred, but I heard Taemin's voice from that first breakfast. You're worth protecting, Minho's whisper in the dark. You deserve softness, Seojun's quiet certainty. You're ours now. I drove my knee into Daehyun's ribs with everything I had. He howled, grip loosening. I scrambled away, chest heaving, face bleeding, but still standing. Give up, he wheezed, pulling himself to his feet. You can't win. I already have. I wiped blood from my mouth. You wanted me dead. I'm alive. You wanted me broken. I'm healing. You wanted to destroy me, and I'm still here. He rushed me one last time, desperate and vicious. I sidestepped, and his momentum carried him into a support beam. The crack of impact echoed through the warehouse. He crumpled, didn't get back up. I stood over him, shaking and bloody and victorious, watching his chest rise and fall with shallow breaths. You're not worth killing, I said quietly, but you're going to answer for what you did, to me, to the others, to every Omega you've hurt. Sirens wailed in the distance. Taemin must have called them. I turned my back on Daehyun and walked toward my alphas on legs that barely held me. They caught me when I collapsed. Taemin's arms, Seojun's strength, Minho's gentleness. All three of them surrounding me, holding me together while I shook apart. You did it, Minho whispered against my hair. You're safe now. Safe. The word felt foreign and real at once. The bond between us pulsed, and I felt it shift, deepen, complete. Claim us, Taman said urgently. Make it official. Make it permanent. I understood what he was asking. The final step, the irrevocable bond that would tie us together forever. Are you sure? My voice cracked. After everything, We're sure. Seojun's hand cupped my face. We've been sure since the moment we caught your scent. Then yes. I pulled them closer. Yes to all of it. Yes to you. The bond snapped into place like coming home. I felt them in ways I'd never felt anyone. Taemin's fierce protectiveness, Seojun's careful devotion, Minho's unwavering faith. And they felt me. All my broken pieces and healing scars and desperate hope. We were complete. 1 week later, I stood on the bridge again. But this time, I wasn't alone. Taemin's hand was warm in mine. Seojun stood solid at my back. Minho's fingers were laced through my other hand. Why did you want to come here? Minho asked softly. I looked down at the black water that had almost claimed me twice. To remember, and to say goodbye. Goodbye to what? To the person who wanted to die. I turned to face them. I'm not him anymore. Who are you now? Taemin asked. I thought about the fight, the choice, the moment I decided living was braver than dying. I'm the man who chose to live. The words settled in my chest, true and unshakable. I'm the man who fought back. I'm the man who's loved by 3 impossibly stubborn alphas who refused to let me go. Damn right we didn't, Seojun murmured. We stood there together, 4 people who'd found each other in the darkest moment and built something beautiful from the wreckage. Then we turned our backs on the edge and walked toward the future, together. The end, to everyone who's been hurt, betrayed, or broken by someone they trusted. You are not weak for believing in love. You are not stupid for giving someone a chance. You are not broken beyond repair. The person who hurt you doesn't get to write your ending. You do. And choosing to heal, to trust again, to keep living despite the pain, that's the bravest thing you'll ever do. You are worth fighting for. You are worth loving. You are worth every beautiful thing this world has to offer. And if you're standing on your own bridge right now, please wait. Please choose to see what tomorrow brings. Because the story isn't over yet. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment below and subscribe for more emotionally powerful tales of love, healing, and second chances. Your support means everything.